Hey, how are you? Welcome to the Foreshore. I'm back at my favourite spot from one last time. This is the spot, of course, where I found that torpedo bottle, the cod bottle, all that silver cutlery, the silver coin, and many, many other things. Now, I thought I'd come back and make sure I've left nothing for the elves before I move on and try and find a new place. And I'm so glad I did. Oh my gosh, some really interesting finds today. Really indicative of the people that live here and who have lived here, past and present. Really interesting. And you'll see that anyway. But what was most interesting today, I found a gun. Now, I've never found a gun before in the River Thames. I found one mudlarking, found metal detecting in the past, but not mudlarking. Really interesting to find that. I always find knives around here, a lot of knives, but never a gun. So, yeah, interesting find. Anyway, you'll see that on the video. Hope you enjoy. Oh, and I did find the pig's nose, by the way. Somebody requested, and I found it, so you'll see that also. All right, enjoy. So this made me laugh. This promises so much, but delivers so very little. Simply the North. But the North what? I love this. You see, you find fragments of something. This is, of course, the North, and then there's a W, which indicates, I would think, North Woolwich. After 3 attempts, I found the pig's nose. Yes, the pig's nose. Let me explain. One of my most favourite finds of this year was this 200-year-old torpedo bottle, washed up on the River Thames foreshore. Very rare to find a complete one from the river. Normally, they break. Torpedo bottles themselves aren't rare, but what is rare is that this one has come out of the River Thames complete. It even still had the cork in it, and was still filled with either Thames juice, a skooma, or a mana potion. I should have drunk it. When I found it, I was as happy as a pig in, well, you know what. But I was so focused on the bottle that I missed the pig's nose lying next to it. This one. Now, I thought nothing of it, but then I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages saying, what about the pig's nose? So, what about the pig's nose? I went back to try and find it. But the problem is, it is nigh on impossible to find the same spot because when tide and time does its magic, things are constantly changing. I persisted, and after the 3rd attempt, I found it. And here it is. The pig's nose. Now here's the thing. I am of the belief that sometimes things are best left in what has become their natural environment, where they belong. And where they have become. You take them away from that and they become something else. Many a thing have I returned to the Thames for that reason. Now this is a kind of a hagstone, though not technically. Give it another 1,000 years in the Thames. This is just so stunning, this beautiful piece of what I think to be Chinese porcelain. Now this is interesting because it's East London and I found quite a few pieces of Chinese porcelain around here and other Chinese artifacts. I guess it must be reflective of the community that lived or lives here. No markings on the base here, so I can't really position it from anywhere in particular, but just quite beautiful. I found a gun in the River Thames. A million things went through my head. One of the first things I noticed was just how heavy it was. I mean, seriously heavy. I was trying to imagine carrying that around all day, tucked in the back of my trousers. Nah, it's just too heavy. I don't think it'll ever catch on. The second thing I noticed was the orange paint on the barrel. I don't think this was some kind of gang sign. I think it indicates that it shoots blanks, like my friend Nigel who broke my trowel. So, what do you do when you find a gun in the River Thames? You take it to the police station, of course. So I decided to take it to Charing Cross police station. I put it in my rucksack. I was going to tuck it in the back of my trousers, but just too heavy. I jumped on the London Underground, feeling like a middle-aged, middle-class gangster, and then headed towards the police station. I walked past Barclays Bank on the Charing Cross Road and had a thought, it being Christmas and all. So I popped in and then popped out. That was fun. Decided to go to the post office, and why not, on a roll, then H. Samuels, the jewellers. Anyways, as I tell you this, I'm on remand. Court case comes up in 3 weeks. This is how to poke a bear. Swastikas all along the Thames Foreshore. My oh my, what a party there must have been. Those bloody Germans, they get everywhere. I say this with my tongue firmly in my mother tongue's cheek. I am, after all, half Bosch and an army brat. So what are these swastikas doing here? A Nazi rave, perhaps? Interesting when you take something out of context. It has a whole new and rather different meaning. These are swastiks, which are like swastikas, but without the ah. And the little bowls are diyas, offerings of light for Diwali. That's a Hindu festival, symbolizing the victory of light over darkness. Stick that in your pipe, Mr. Hitler. Swastika comes from the Sanskrit word svastika, which sounds very German. In Hinduism, they are a symbol of prosperity and good fortune, and they've been used for thousands of years across Eurasia, Africa, and Native America. Now, several buildings in London even carry swastikas, notably India House on the Aldwych. And then that little fella had to come along and ruin everything and give a whole new meaning to them, Naughty boy. This particular spot, which, oh gosh, it's just delivered so much. So many different bottles. This is where I found the Torpedo Bottle. This is where I found that incredible cod bottle. And here is another cod bottle, but that's how you normally find them, broken. It's an R. White's bottle. The cod bottle, of course, is the one with the glass marble. But that's mostly what they're like, or just the necks of them. So very fortunate to find the ones I did. But this is like a little bottle graveyard here. And you'll see a few more also in a minute. So this is similar to the North piece of pottery, where you just get fragments, a glimpse of something. So I was intrigued on this, and you'll read here, it says the Peninsula and, where does it say? The Peninsula and Oriental Steam Navigation Company. I mean, that just sounds fantastic, does it not? And I was intrigued by this, so of course I take it home and I do research. And this, amazingly, is the forerunner of what we know today as P&O. And specifically, most of us, I think, will know from the P&O ferries. If you've ever been to Calais on a ferry, it's probably a P&O ferry. And this is the forerunner from mid-1800s. How wonderful. Now, I think that this is a boat hook. It certainly has the shape, but what baffles me somewhat is the fact that the top of it is flat. Now, normally they would be round on the boat hooks. For all intents and purposes, it looks exactly the same, other than it's just flat on top and it has that hole through it, so that confuses me slightly. If any of you have any thoughts as to what this could be, please, as always, do leave a comment. I'd be intrigued. As I say, I think this is a boat hook. Along this particular stretch, I found so much ammunition. I'm not so sure really why actually it collects here. This is a live round as well. I tried reading the base. The base will always tell you what kind of round that is, but I just couldn't read it. I didn't have my glasses. I've tried to get a close-up, so hopefully if you freeze frame it, it may look familiar, or you may be able to see what it is. But this particular area is a hot spot for ammunition. As always in this case, I throw it, I mean, this is quite a low tide, I think it was at 0.7 meters. I throw it way out into the mud, it will sink and disappear, and nobody will find that again. It's quite safe. What I loved about this was just the neck of the bottle poking out of the mud. There, almost trying to escape. I was going to take out the bottle and see if it was complete, but in many ways it's just beautiful the way it sits there, half emerging from the mud. The amount of cutlery I found in this area, I think, as I quoted before, I could happily feed a small family in Kent with it. But just so many knives. This is East London, this is close to the Isle of Dogs, and it's just ridiculous, the amount of knives. Now, you could say that this could have just fallen off a boat or something, but just the sheer number makes that probably not a probability. A lot of these, I think, have been dumped for whatever reason. I wasn't really sure what this was. My first thoughts when I saw it was it's one of these, it's like a shot measure. You know, when you go to a pub and they pour you like a spirit, they have like a little container, which looks very similar to this. I mean, what doesn't make sense is the holes in it. And so it quickly became apparent that this probably isn't what it is. But I had no idea what this was. But intriguing nonetheless. But look at the colour. Isn't that beautiful? This is what tide and time does. Just beautiful. Here's another wonderful bottle, and this is Lions & Co. Now, I had a look, actually, just trying to research what it is. It's tiny. That some suggested on the research I did that this might be a sample bottle of tea, a J. Lyons & Company Limited tea sample bottle. Beautiful. I left it where it was. I didn't take this one home, only because I was moving home, and I just have way too much stuff. Now, this is a fly button, not the first one here, but the second one you'll see. And what's interesting, actually, in this area, there are so many of them. And some of them were detachable fly buttons for workwear. Again, this would have been late Victorian, early 1900s. Normally on there, they have like the maker's name, but it's very hard to distinguish anything on this particular one. This spot today was just an absolute bonanza of beautiful bottles. This green one, wonderful. Again, I left this. The problem is you end up taking just too much stuff from the river, and sometimes it's just better just to leave it there for somebody else to find. But again, another beautiful bottle. Look at the green on that. Fantastic. No markings that I could see on there necessarily on a company name or anything. But beautiful nonetheless. Now I am always intrigued when I find a key. And this isn't particularly old, but I am intrigued as more than anything, and what makes it fascinating, of course, is the story behind it rather than the object itself. You'd have to ask, isn't it, how did it get there? What does it open? What's the story behind it? That's the fascination. And sometimes that's where your imagination just runs